Maybe I missed something as you were talking, but I didn't hear you talk about women who have had abortions and years later regret having one, or the truth that it stays with them all their life. I've met many women who've had abortions and are still haunted by their decision. I believe it's worth noting. And I guess in the other version she says, she adds, who go on to either regret or live with the scarring memory of going through with the decision. There's a lot that we didn't say on the topic, and a lot that we have said elsewhere, and even if you include all the places that we've talked about abortion, everywhere we've talked about it in writing and in speech, there's a lot more to say. It is certainly true that many women who have abortions think about it throughout life, and some of those women come to regret it, and regret will happen, unfortunately, from many of our decisions that we make. Pointing out that there is an option that some people can choose, that some of those people who choose it, and maybe in some cases feel pressured into making the choice, will regret, I don't see that it necessarily belongs in every conversation about abortion. I do think that it's disingenuous and really mean-spirited, actually, for some on the left who are at the extreme end of the spectrum to talk about things like celebrating abortion. Any human being who has thought about what we are and what organisms are should prefer that this not be something that has to happen very often at all. The same, I would hope, would be true for litters of puppies. And for any of our other domesticated animals, and for wild animals as well. You can take that, everyone will draw a boundary in a different place with regard to which kinds of life they care about and which they don't, or in what order they put those kinds of care. But I have certainly met women who have lived with the choice that they felt that they had to make throughout their entire lives, did not regret it, understand their lives to have been much, much bigger, more rewarding. In at least one case, allowed them to then have a family that they could plan and could offer their children a life that they felt was worthy of their children, that they would not have been able to do had they not been able to choose early in their lives when they weren't in such a position. And I've also met women who did wonder with some frequency what their lives would have been had they made a different choice. Neither of those is necessarily exactly regret, but regret happens too. So, all of the diversity of human responses to such a situation, which is a dreadful one to find yourself in. That is, I am pregnant and this isn't right. This will be a problem either way. What do I do? It's a dreadful position. And none of the choice shouldn't be easy for the woman to grapple with, but it should be easily available once the decision has been made.
Yeah, I think this is exactly right. It's a significant decision, and maybe we should just leave it at that. I think the pretense that it is not an important decision, that it's just a choice like any other, is obviously wrong for most people, and maybe that even goes without saying, or it would if it hadn't been turned into a political article of faith.
Right. I guess that's part of what, and that really is related to what you were raising and we were talking about in the main part of this live stream today, which is that so much of what should be a normal part of the conversation has been obliterated by the political landscape. And the political landscape has been created in large part and certainly maintained and massaged and enhanced by our two political parties. And for the most part, they don't care about these women or those babies or those fetuses or any of it. It's about political wins and maintaining a tribal duopoly in American political space, such that you can always get people to do what you want by putting this over their heads and saying, "What if? You got to vote with us because what if?" And as you said in the first hour, some of that has been destroyed with this. Some of their ability to bludgeon us with, you can't not vote blue or you can't not vote red because this thing might happen. Well, it just happened. Okay, now what do we do? Now what kind of bludgeon will they use? What will they discover next?
Yep. And, safe, legal, rare, and early.
Yeah.
Right? That's the world I want to see.
That's right.
And it's a world I'm seen as an opponent for advocating anything other than it's fine whenever.
Yeah. And I do not have the data at my fingertips here, but there are ample data that suggest that when it is available, that abortion rates go down. That you find, when society has facilitated helping people plan, and plan will be read by some as a euphemism here, but helping people plan, including when they find themselves in the situations where birth control has failed and they cannot see their way to starting or expanding their family now, that in the broader societal context, abortion rates go down. And someone actually down here at the bottom here said, somewhere, I thought, okay, this is a little bit related, but another question here. If you kill a helpless baby for convenience, what does that indicate regarding your attitude towards minorities? That sounds unrelated, and we'll get to that part of this question, especially given how ravenous the alt-left is for abortion. I, the question asker, writes, am pro-safe, legal, and rare. And you added early.
Yep.
And I think those are the 4 words we want, right? And if you accept the data which show that when safe and legal, and when safe and legal, the rate of abortions go down, then you get towards more rare when you make safe and legal true. And the restrictions that will be in place in some cases, I hope that we don't get as restricted as some European countries. I think there are some European countries that are like at 6 or 8 weeks, and most women don't know they're pregnant at 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas also I think the first trimester is too early, because the genetic testing that many women do, especially older women, as I was when both of our children were born, are at higher risk for genetic birth defects. And I'm not suggesting that anyone should be forced to get the genetic testing or make any particular decisions if they get a result that some people might make a different decision based on. But for many people, including us, we had that testing done, which is right around the halfway mark. And we're completely thrilled and would have been heartbroken had it come back abnormal and would have had some very difficult decisions to make.
Absolutely.
There's no guarantee as to what it is that you will do when you're faced with a situation that you've never been faced with before, no matter how certain you are in advance. And I'm not even saying we were certain, but limiting the ability for a woman to terminate to before she would have the testing that might change the decision that she would make feels like it is again disingenuous if you're pretending that this is for the good of the woman and her existing family, which many people are pretending. So with regard to the other part of that question, which I sort of went out of order here, but I think this question asker, who has a female name, but of course one never knows, says, I'm pro-safe, legal, and rare, says, if you kill a helpless baby for convenience, what does that indicate regarding your attitude towards minorities?
Well, I would rephrase it. Your attitude towards others. And I do think that there is...
All others. Everyone, not you.
Well,
Everyone
minorities, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I think the point is people are, it is much easier to be indifferent to people who are remote to you in, however many ways there are to be remote. People who are physically remote, people who are culturally remote, etc.
Right.
And so I don't know that minorities is a good description of anything, but the point is we should be cultivating in people a sense of our shared humanity. And I do think that is another hidden element of this discussion, which is if you pretend that this is a unimportant decision, right? That it's just another decision in life, and who is anyone to tell anyone it's more than that, that it does result in a dehumanizing impulse. And I think that's the reason that early is such an important piece of this discussion.
Yeah.
Is that, those who say, well, it's a baby. Well, no, a zygote is not a baby, right? The zygote is a cell on the way to being a baby, right? And so there is some uncomfortable increase in the humanity of that process. And there comes a point at which there's so much humanity that none of us doubt it, right? And there's an intermediate point at which some do and some don't. And the basic point is, it is always better to be biased towards the early end of that, so that there is no, or as little ambiguity as possible.
Yeah.
Precisely because what we don't want to do is view other human beings with any kind of indifference. And there's also, there are questions about things that are similar to humans in some ways, the way we treat animals in laboratory testing, right? I don't think that's a zero issue either, right? And it's not that I think we are in a position to do away with animal testing. I think it's important because there's certain things you can't test any other way. But am I very uncomfortable with us rendering, the testing on primates as an unimportant issue, that, it's a matter of industry, it's not a matter of morality? No, I don't believe that at all. So, these things are complex, and frankly, I don't trust anybody who says, no, it's simple. Here's the answer. We've got it.